Hey guys, really quickly, I just wanted to get this part out of the way. No, not every Let's Talk About video will be about RWBY. I have one for the webtoon Unordinary, and if this video gets like 5 likes, I'll start working on that. But with that said, let's jump right into this video. Let's talk about Ruby Rose. I'm not going to bog this video down with details I don't need to go over, but just in case you didn't happen to watch the first video, I was first introduced to RWBY in 2013 and I absolutely fell in love with the show. I was quite the massive fan. I didn't talk about it last time, but I actually had a RWBY poster with Ruby, Weiss, Yang, and Blake hung up on my wall at one point. Now, at the time of starting and up until about volume 6 ish, Ruby was one of my favorite characters, only overshadowed by Jean and my all time favorite, the best girl herself, Nora. Now, I say up until volume 6 because at the time I was not exactly sure with, when the disconnect between her character and myself started. But what I do know is I wasn't alone. Some people in the RWBY community started feeling similarly about her. But at the time, I just couldn't put my finger on what the issue was. I will admit, RWBY is far from a flawless show. It never was one. Not even with the man, the myth, the legend, Monty Oum himself. But following Volume 3, RWBY got really bad. Volume 4 is my least favorite volume, which says a lot considering how I absolutely dumpstered on Volume 7 and 8 in my last video. I personally believe that a lot of the issues that RWBY has can be traced back to Volume 4. Now, why am I talking about all of this when I'm supposed to be talking about how, as this video title suggests, Ruby Rose is toxic? Well, it's very important to understand the first steps made in the direction of the character. Now, I want to give a quick shout out to the YouTuber MurderOfBirds before I go any further. This guy has been my saving grace when it comes to RWBY. His reaction videos made watching the RWBY seasons I disliked so much better, as his genuine love for the show is absolutely incredible. Anyways, that aside, RWBY really starts becoming a bit of a problematic character following season 3. Stiff animation notwithstanding, Volume 4 is not the greatest, and in my opinion, it has the least redeemable qualities to it. But in Volume 4, Chapter 8, we get the beginning to Ruby Rose's eventual descent into becoming one of the most divisive characters in all of RWBY. It all starts in the scene where Jean states that Crow is using them as bait. Now, while he's not exactly wrong, and Jean is very accurate with this statement, this is what begins to break trust between Team Ranger and Crow, which is totally fair. If my uncle or my friend's uncle was using me as bait for a bad guy, I'd be pretty fucking pissed off too. Then, in the same chapter, Ruby goes on to confront Crow on why he didn't just trust the team, why he didn't just go with them. A fair question, and honestly, I can't blame her. However, Crow ends up getting painted in a rather negative light here when the man was just trying to do what he thought best. Some people would say that I am defending the reckless endangerment of children. However, they could not be further from the truth. because these kids knew the risks. Ozpin was sure to tell them of all of the risks back in Volume 1. You cannot support these kids in their endeavors to become a hunter, to become hunters and huntresses 1 second, while discrediting them and saying that leaving them is endangerment of a child in another. If you support Ruby as a huntress, then Crow did nothing wrong. He used them to lure out a target and then protected them from said target. Keep in mind, he's the only person to get hurt in the entire group. This is really where the seeds of distrust towards adults is built upon, which is an understandable reaction. However, it should have been more for Jean than for Ruby. Ruby herself even states that she trusts Crow, but she just wanted him to be a little more honest with her, and wished that he had just traveled with them. I have a few more issues with this episode outside of this, but that's for maybe another video. But this brings us to the next chapter that would slowly lead to Ruby's toxicity. Leonardo Lionheart. From the start of Volume 5, we knew shit wasn't right with poor Lionheart, as the man was clearly being used. You can tell from the scene in his office, where the same W that was on Cinder's tablet for the Queen virus appears on his desk. So, for those of us that haven't seen the show, we know what happens to Team RWBY. But for those of us that don't, the last few episodes of the volume sees Lionheart, a man that Crow said they could all trust, betray the team and leave them to the wolves. I'm not going to analyze this too much, as it's not so much the scenes that are impactful, but the actions of Mr. Lionheart. You see, this betrayal, this is the one that should have been pointed to more often when talking about why they can't trust adults. But we'll get into that in a moment. You see, going from Volume 5 to Volume 6, we get by far the most recalled moment in all of RWBY past this volume. You see, after using the relic in Volume 6, Chapter 2, the group learns about Ozpin, or Ozma's, past, which causes them to learn about Salem and how she can't be destroyed, as Ozpin was told, which is an obvious setup for Team RWBY to do it. It's all about reading in between the lines, as she says, you can't. But this doesn't say it's impossible. It's subjective. Anyways, this moment would lead to the team's eventual mistreatment of poor Ironwood. The show likes to poke at Ozpin as RWBY says no more secrets following their newfound knowledge of Salem, Ozpin, the relics, and the maidens. However, if you've seen my last video, you know this to be an outright lie. Hey, editor me, really fast, put in that video clip from the last one. And yet they distrust Ironwood. But from day one, upon meeting the team again, Ironwood did nothing but express his concerns with Ozpin hiding all of the information. Then he tells on his plans in detail. Keep in mind, of the people in the room that he's speaking to, he's only known one for more than maybe a few days. And that one person is Crow. That is the only person in the room he knows explicitly. So after he has done the exact opposite thing that the rest of the authority figures have done, what does Team RWBY decide to do? The very same thing Ozpin was doing and fed him lies of omission during their entire time there. Outright lying to him about the fact that Salem can't be killed. Yang and Blake even actively cause dissent by helping Robin steal from him and citing that he shouldn't have been taking resources in the first place and that Mantle needed them more. Now, hiding the information is bad enough, but RWBY actively made the choice to lie to him. She actively told Crow and the rest of the team that this was the only logical decision, despite this being exactly what Ozpin would have and already had done to them. Not only that, but Ruby and the group has no reason to distrust Ironwood. Something that I didn't mention much, but I really should have in my previous video, is that he has given everyone ample reasons to trust him. Day one of their arrival, he has them escorted directly to them despite their illegal acquisition of an Atlas airship. Also, I neglect to mention in the script, but a friend of mine pointed out to me, he also kind of handwaves their destruction of more Atlas property, that being the mech that they absolutely destroy, that leads to part of an Atlas city being destroyed. So he's really just kind of hand waving a lot of crime that they've committed. He then also openly reveals his plans to a group of people, most of which he's only had one or two interactions with. Or even that, when Weiss lost control of her semblance momentarily, Ironwood regained control of the entire situation and even defended her. And before that, Ironwood sends a robotic arm to Yang, who at this point his only interaction with was him disqualifying her from the Amity tournament and telling the kids that it was okay to run away. Oh yeah, before giving Yang her new arm, when Amity is attacked, the first time he actively encourages the kids who are training to be hunters to run away from the situation, telling them that nobody will blame them if they do. But Ruby mistrusts this man, which I, for the life of me, will never understand. She constantly lets Blake and Yang paint him in a bad light, and even attempts to make him the objectively wrong party. Then, after all of that, they even proceed to use his plan and release the information about Salem and the Grimm invasion internationally. She shuts down Crow when he tries to defend Ironwood, forces Crow to submit to the group's way of thinking, and makes him begin to mistrust his own friend. This is the character I'm supposed to be rooting for? Ruby has a chance to recover from all of this. Rooster Teeth can even make Ruby less toxic, but they only really have one shot at it. And if they fuck it up, then the Ruby as a character is going to stay like this forever. Now, I have yet to see Volume 9. I have yet to know if they fix this toxicity that Ruby is perpetuating, but all it takes to fix this is quite simple. The next time Ruby starts to hide information from another character, have Oscar, or Ozpin, preferably Ozpin, confront her. Have him confront her about her moral grandstanding, about when she found out he was hiding something, but yet had the audacity to do the same thing to Ironwood, the one person they should have trusted. That's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, consider leaving a like. I'll be sure to link MurderOfBirds in the description. Please go subscribe to him if you haven't already. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. Until then, peace.